2021 has been a banner year for Bellator MMA. We've witnessed the next generation of stars emerge. While championship belts found new mantles to call home.
And now, I am the champ!
Legends delivered fantastic finishes.
And the GOAT reigns supreme.
And $1 million dream was manifested.
And the new Bellator Featherweight World Champion.
Tonight, we put a bow on the year with a much-anticipated Bellator Bantamweight Championship culture clash. Newly minted ruler Sergio Pettis.
One of the happiest moments of my MMA career for sure. You know, all the hard work, finally got my chance to get a title, and it was awesome to share that with my coach, my brother, and just my team.
Defends his belt against Japan's best at 135, Kyoji Horiguchi.
This guy was the last man to hold his belt, and no one took it from him. You know, he just vacated it, and I feel like if I beat him, I'm the real champion at 135.
It's champion versus champion in a main event super fight. As the sun begins to set on 2021, Bellator MMA brings the holiday season heat from its home away from home, Mohegan Sun Casino and Resort in Uncasville, Connecticut. And hey, even Louise thinks it's the most wonderful time of the year for mixed martial arts fans because Bellator unwraps a special gift, a rare champion versus champion summit meeting with a Bellator Bantamweight Championship on the line. Hello and happy holidays. I'm Mauro Ranallo. Tonight, we wrap up an amazing annum for Bellator MMA. 8 warriors have had the honor of holding the Bellator 135-pound championship belt. And the fun began at Bellator 32, October 14, 2010, with Zach Fun-Size Makovsky making history as the first. The 6th champion, Kyoji Horiguchi, who dethroned Darion Caldwell in his promotional debut at Bellator 222 inside Madison Square Garden, later vacated the title due to a knee injury that required surgery. Newly minted kingpin Sergio Pettis was surgical in dissecting Juan Archuleta over 5 hotly contested rounds at Bellator 258 back in May. And the stage is set for one of the most anticipated championship fights of the year, bringing in my broadcast brother, Big John McCarthy, and I hope you will indulge me and set the table for what promises to be a mouth-watering main event.
Now, this is a fantastic main event. You're looking at our champion in Sergio Pettis, a guy who has now stepped outside of the shadow of his brother and is the champion of the family, a guy whose maturity both in and out of the cage is now seen, and a guy with a fight IQ that can get through anybody. And then you're taking a look at his opponent, a guy in Kyoji Horiguchi. He is the next guy in the Japanese culture he's the new samurai. You can go back to Ramina Sato, go to Maki Sakurai, go to Kazushi Sakuraba. These were the guys that made Japanese MMA. Well, this is the man that has now brought it to the next level. He is possibly one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the sport. He is phenomenal. He's learned how to wrestle. He's moved from Japan to Coconut Creek, and he lives now in Florida. He's an amazing fighter. This should be an incredible championship fight.
Now, Sergio Pettis has admitted that he can't call himself the real champion until he defeats Horiguchi. And the 2-time Rizin ruler, well, he is all set to try and join Eduardo Dantas as the only two-time Bellator 135-pound champions. With more on Bellator 272, let's say hello to Amanda Guerra at the fight desk.
A very good evening to you, Moro. Yes, I am here with our two-time world champ, Josh Thompson. Look, this is one of the best fights of the year. We've been waiting for this since Horiguchi vacated his belt back in 2019, and they talked about it there. Sergio Pettis says, look, yes, the belt is mine. I feel like I'm babysitting it. For it to be mine, I need to go through Horiguchi. Talk to us about how Pettis got to this point.
What are you talking about? You are the champion, Pettis. Okay, you are the champion. You earned that belt. You worked really hard to get there. You had a beautiful performance over Juan Archuleta to get that title. I don't understand why you would think that. His performances against Juan Archuleta, against Kashakian, against Ricky Bandejas, all dominant performances. He looked amazing during all three of those fights. He is the current champion. There's no way around it. He now, just for himself, mentally, needs to understand he's going to have to get through Horiguchi to maintain this title. We will find out how that all works out tonight because he's on point. He is the champ now.
Talk to us about Kyoji Horiguchi coming into this fight. Look, he already got his Rising belt back, so that's great. But he says, look, this is the one that I want. But he has confidence coming into this, especially since he already has that other belt.
Yeah, when he got his Rising belt back, I think a lot of questions were answered. Will my knee hold up? Will my body hold up? How has my training been? And he has proven the power is still there. The speed is still there. He has gotten more confidence now after having dominant performance to get his Rising title back. Now this is the next step for him. I believe, just to be honest, the speed will be a factor for him. He is going to be the faster fighter. I believe he has a little bit more power, but he's got to make sure that he puts Pettis on his back foot. And Pettis, as of lately, has not been someone to take a step backwards. So if he can put Pettis on his back foot and keep him guessing, look for him to have a dominant night tonight.
We're going to talk about it all night, but the talk around Kyoji Horiguchi right now is just on another level. But Sergio Pettis at the same time, look, guys, it's going to be an incredible fight. We get champ versus champ here. Who gets to walk away with the bantamweight belt? But this is a stacked card that we have here tonight. Emmanuel Sanchez going up against Jeremy Kennedy. Sanchez telling us after he lost to Pitbull, he wanted to make a statement against Mads Burnell, but he was too emotional. It didn't work. He says he has learned his lesson. He is ready for tonight, but he will have his hands full with a guy like Jeremy Kennedy. And in the bantamweight division, it is so talented, so deep. We have Josh Hill going up against Jared Scoggins. This got a little interesting. Scoggins came in about 5 pounds overweight. Josh Hill will look to make him pay for that. But for now, we send it back down tomorrow for our first fight of the night, and boy, is it a doozy.
Thanks a lot, Amanda. Yes, we will see number 5 ranked Bellator MMA middleweight, the undefeated Johnny Ebelin. Welcome Colin Huckbody to the Bellator MMA cage for the first time.
We now welcome the first fighter to the cage, Colin Young Hug Huckbody.
'27-year-old young Huck, Colin Huckbody, fighting out of Phoenix by way of Nevis, Minnesota. And he trains at the MMA lab under veteran trainer John Crouch. He's won 7 of his last 8 fights. His previous fight picked up a win over Nick Krause via unanimous decision in July of this year.
Very good off of his back. Very good at setting up the arm triangle. Ebelin has got to be very careful if he goes to the ground with Huckbody.
Huckbody, a lifelong athlete, played quarterback for his high school football team, hoping to score a touchdown in his Bellator MMA debut.
And now his opponent, Johnny Diamond Hands Ebelin.
I want y'all to say this with me.
Johnny Ebelin, proving to be a fan favorite, turns 30 on December 13. Undefeated at 9-0, including a perfect 5-0 here in Bellator MMA's 5-fight winning streak at middleweight in this promotion, the second longest active streak in the division, behind Anatoly Tokov, who has 6. And hey, anytime you enter the cage to the gap band, oops, upside above your head, you know you're going to be an entertainer because he loves going upside his opponent's heads.
Just like he did here against Daniel Madrid. Big, heavy shots, enough to put Madrid out. But he had a very tough fight in his next fight. Had to work very hard against Travis Davis. A lot of big shots, a lot of great wrestling, and showed that he can go 3 hard rounds with a guy that keeps on, keep it on. But Johnny Ebelin is the guy right now. Talk to everyone at ATT. This guy is getting better and better. He looks for a big win tonight.
Began wrestling at the age of 5, wrestled D1 for the University of Missouri, proving to be a pipeline for mixed martial artists as we get set for the first fight of the night here on the Bellator 272 main card.
As simple as it gets. Take a look, 10-3, very nice record to 9-0 for Johnny Ebelin. He wants to make that 10-0.
With the official introductions, here's Michael C. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Bellator MMA live on Showtime tonight here at Mohegan Sun Arena. Bellator 272 gets underway now with 3 5-minute rounds in the middleweight division. Introducing the blue corner at 6'3", weighing in 185 pounds even, making his Bellator debut. He brings 10 professional victories, 3 defeats by way of Nevis, Minnesota. He fights out of Phoenix, Arizona, Colin Young Hookbody. And across the cage, his adversary, fighting out of the red corner at 6'1", weighing in the same 185 pounds. As a professional, he's undefeated at 9-0, fighting out of Coconut Creek, Florida, by way of Kansas City, Missouri. Introducing Johnny Diamond Hands Ebelin. And when the bell rings, the referee in charge, Brian Minor.
Round 1. Ebelin immediately attacking the leg of Hookbody, who switches to southpaw. Body kick by Ebelin. Beautiful left, right. Solid right hand that landed for Ebelin. Kick right underneath the armpit, and it's all Johnny Ebelin early. Hookbody launches a low kick and another one of his own, but countered by Ebelin. Eats that left hand, and Johnny Ebelin going on the attack and taking Hookbody to the canvas.
Shots right here. He needs to do something other than what you're saying.
And Young Hook is stalked here. Johnny Ebelin. Happy early 30th birthday as he improves to 10-0 with his 5th knockout victory. He is 6-0 in Bellator MMA, number 5, and a man to keep your eyes on.
Definitely a man to keep your eyes on. You have to be very impressed with what you saw out of Johnny Ebelin. He came to fight. He was doing everything offensive. Take a look at what happens here. Nice leg kick, and then he goes after the shots. Big left hand touches. That affects Hookbody. Ebelin then goes after him, takes him down, and right away, heavy ground and pound, landing a big left hand. That jackhammer just kept on finding its spot. Hookbody turns his back. You cannot do that in a professional fight. That's what's going to bring the referee in. Good stoppage. Nice win by Johnny Ebelin.
It would take longer to come up with his list of nicknames than it would to rewatch what we just saw, as Diamond Hands, also been christened the human cheat code by his Coach King Mo and American Top Team was known as Ebelin, Korean Canelo, more nicknames than professional wrestler Ed Leslie, who you probably best know as Brutus Beefcake. A brutal display by Johnny Ebelin to kick off Bellator 272. Let's make it official with Michael C. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, inside the Bellator cage, referee Brian Miner steps in, weighs off the contest due to strikes. Official time, 1 minute, 11 seconds into round number 1 by TKO. He's still undefeated, Johnny Diamond Hands Ebelin.
At 1-1-1 of round 1, Johnny Ebelin gets it done again. 10-0 with 6 KOs. Let's go to Big John McCarthy.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with your winner, Johnny Ebelin. Johnny, you came out in that fight, you established quickly. You were going after him offensively. You caught the kick. You hit him with a beautiful left hand. What were you wanting to do here to everyone to show exactly where you belong in the middleweight division?
To be completely honest, John, I wanted to send that dude to the metaverse. Sadly, I could not do that tonight. I wish I could have put on a better show, but it is what it is.
I tell you what, you put on a fantastic show because you went after him. You made him turn up. You made a professional fighter turn into someone that had to turn away from you. That was a great performance. You have now put yourself at 10-0. That's impressive. You train out of Coconut Creek with all these guys. You've gone all through all of these nicknames too, and we're going to start calling you the human cheat code. But who is it that you should be facing here in the cage in your next fight?
Honestly, John Salter, I signed a bout agreement to fight you in Florida, and you pussied out. I don't know if you got hurt or if you pussied out, but I want to see you in this goddamn cage, dog. Let's go. Let's gear up and let's get after it.
That's what I call a call out. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Johnny Diamond Hands Ebelin.
Johnny Ebelin, a perfect 10 to begin his professional mixed martial arts career. Let's go back to Amanda Guerra.
Mauro, thank you so much. Here with Josh Thompson. Look, we got to talk about Johnny Ebelin here because he's still undefeated. There was a lot of hype around him before this fight, and you said, look, he cannot listen to that. He's got to stay focused, and sure enough, he did just that.
He did exactly what he was supposed to do. He's supposed to dispatch of people that are coming in on their debut. He's ranked number 5. That's what he was supposed to do. I'm glad he didn't get caught up in all the hype, and he got him out of there as quick as possible. Now the call out was to John Salter. John Salter's ranked number 2. That's what you want from your young prospects. He's 10-0. What am I hiding from now? Let's go. Get me to that title shot. Get me to those number 1 and number 2 guys.
All right, it's been an exciting start here at Bellator 272. We may be nearing the end of the year, but we are far from finished. December is full of action. Sunday, 5-time world champion in boxing's best, Gervonta Davis puts his 25-0 record with 24 knockouts to the test against power puncher and third-generation fighter out of Mexico City, Isa the Pitbull Cruz, live on Showtime pay-per-view. Then Saturday, December 11th, the WBC Bantamweight World title is on the line. 47-fight veteran, the Filipino Flash, Nonito Donaire, brings his powerful left hand back to the ring to defend his belt against his fellow countryman in undefeated Raymart, the Assassin Gabalio. Well, back here live inside Mohegan Sun. Tonight is just heating up. It's about to get a little bit hotter. Mauro, down to you.
That it is, Amanda, as we ring in the holiday season with the final Bellator MMA event of the year. Lots to look forward to in 2022. Ryan Bader will face Valentin Moldavsky to determine the undisputed Bellator MMA heavyweight champion. Gegard Mousasi will defend his middleweight crown against undefeated #1 ranked contender Austin Vanderford. And Vadim Nemkov defends the 205-pound title against #1 ranked contender Corey Anderson in the finals of the Bellator MMA light heavyweight World Grand Prix. And speaking of Grand Prix, The bantamweight division, one of the deepest in the sport. It's only fitting that the Bellator 135ers get an opportunity to participate in the gauntlet for glory. With more, here's Michael C. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, kicking off in early 2022, live on Showtime, we're proud to announce the first ever Bellator Bantamweight World Grand Prix, featuring 8 of the world's best, including from Dagestan, Russia, Magomed Tiger Magomedov. Ireland's very own James the Strabanimal Gallagher. From Mosoro, Brazil, Leandro Alter Ego. Fighting out of Buffalo, New York, Patchy No Love Mix. From Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Rafian Super Stotts. The former Bellator Bantamweight World Champion from Hesperia, California, Juan the Spaniard Archuleta.
Let's get it, baby! Let's go! Let's go!
And the Grand Prix opening round will also include the 2 fighters featured in tonight's main event. The former Bellator title holder and current Ryzen Bantamweight World Champion from Gunma, Japan, Kyoji, the Karate Kid, Horiguchi. And the reigning Bellator Bantamweight World Champion from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Sergio S.P. Pettis. Ladies and gentlemen, the 8 combatants set to compete for $1 million in the upcoming Bellator Bantamweight World Grand Prix.
Josh, we have talked about it over and over, just how deep and how talented this bantamweight division is. Now we get a Grand Prix, $1 million on the line. How excited are you for this?
What they don't understand, people don't understand this, is that it's not just $1 million plus their fight purse. They'll be making a lot more than $1 million if they get to the finals, just getting to the finals. I'm pumped for this. I'm excited for it because we have some of the best talent, if not the best talent in the world across in the bantamweight division. The bantamweight division right now is the most stacked division in the whole sport of MMA. And I'm glad that our fighters get to showcase that for $1 million.
I asked you this earlier today. You wouldn't tell me. You said, I'm going to wait and tell you on air. Give me a dark horse here.
I'm going to make you wait a little bit longer.
Josh, you are very frustrating, sir.
There is no dark horse. All of these fighters are extremely talented. They're all ranked in the top 8. These are the best fighters in the world right now. So there's real no dark horse, but there are matches that I really would like to see, and I'll tell you later.
Okay, thank you. That's why you guys got to keep watching here on the show, as if you wouldn't already. 2 of the faces in that division are getting ready to face off in Jared Scoggins and Josh Hill. Jared Scoggins came in overweight. We're going to talk about that here in a second, but let's talk about Josh Hill, because he's going to try to make him pay for that.
Yeah, what he's going to do is he was obviously a little bit upset at the fact that he came in so far overweight in Scoggins. But with Josh Hill, what he does well is he just tracks after people. He makes them uncomfortable, makes them fight on the back foot, utilizes all of his striking as well as his wrestling. He is a complete mixed martial artist when it comes to being a fighter. He's patient, he waits for the fight to develop in front of him, and he doesn't overreach and overextend himself like Scoggins is looking for him to do. Scoggins is someone that will frustrate you, so Josh Hill needs to make sure that he stays on point with his defense and touches him up and utilizes his wrestling.
Jared Scoggins, on the other hand, he was supposed to be in the Bellator cage 3 times prior to this. Things kept coming up, didn't make it. Then today, shows up a little bit overweight. Talk to us about that.
Well, he almost didn't make it again. 5 pounds is a lot. That's not a little bit, okay? 1 pound, maybe 1.5 pounds is a little bit overweight. When it comes down to it, commissions get really upset about that. But in this situation, Josh Hill's going to potentially make him pay for this. Scoggins needs to make sure this fight doesn't get into the 3rd round, because at that weight, lets me wonder if you trained hard enough.
We're going to see what happens. Mauro, we'll send it back down to you.
All right, thank you very much, Amanda. Yeah, pivotal battle at bantamweight. Number 7 ranked Josh Hill looking to bounce back from a loss to the now number 2 ranked Rafion Stotts, who we will see in the bantamweight Grand Prix. He welcomes a, well, heavier than usual Jared Scoggins to Bellator MMA.
And now set to make his way to the cage, Jared Psycho Scoggins.
Well, John Scoggins must have enjoyed Thanksgiving Day leftovers, and because of his scale fail, his opponent Hill, the Canadian, has a few more loonies and toonies to spend on holiday shopping this year.
Well, his wife will be very happy about that, but he's got to deal with a guy that is, 5 pounds basically overweight. That is a lot. That's saying, it could be a tactical decision by Jared Scoggins saying, you know what, I'm not going to try to lose that weight because I think it's going to deplete me, and I think I will have more energy in this fight, and I'll lose the money to try to get the win in the cage.
He was previously scheduled to fight for Bellator 3 separate times. The first time against Toby Missick. Missick missed weight. Fight didn't take place, and yet here we are. Hill will take an extra large chunk of Scoggins' purse to make this fight happen. Scoggins, though, looking at his career, he's won 5 in a row and is coming off a victory over Thomas Vasquez, fight that went the distance back in September of 2020, so it's been a while.
It has been a while.
And now, making his way, gentleman, Josh Hill.
Welcome back. I will be back.
Proudly representing the Maple Leaf, Josh Hill turned 35 last month, and he is not stopping when it comes to believing that, yes, he can one day be the king of the hill. And Bellator MMA has to bounce back. And, you talk about fighting, everyone says the majority, large majority is mental. Well, Hill, he took that and ran with it. Went back to school online for sports psychology. Is now a mental performance coach, coaching athletes. And, hey, kudos to him. I'm glad that the conversation around mental health is beginning to get louder and louder.
You can take a look at Josh Hill. He's that mental health advocate, a guy that helps people. Felicia Spencer from Canada,
yes,
just retired, saying it was due to, I want to keep my mental health, and that's so important. This fight right here should be an outstanding matchup.
Yes, from smashing the stigma to, well, trying to smash each other in this bantamweight battle. Let's take a look at the numbers, John.
And look at the numbers are exactly what we were talking about before. 140 pounds for Jared Scoggins. The commission took 35% from him because they were not happy with how much that was, and I think that should actually be higher.
Let's go to Michael C. Williams.
Live on Showtime, Bellator MMA moves now to the bantamweight division, scheduled for 3 5-minute rounds. Introducing the blue corner, at 5'7", weighing in 140 pounds. Tonight, he makes his Bellator debut with 10 professional victories, just 1 defeat. From Spartanburg, South Carolina, Jared Psycho Scoggins. And across the cage, his adversary out of the red corner at 5'6", weighing in 135 3/4 pounds. As a professional, 20 wins, 4 losses. From Fonthill, Ontario, Canada, presenting gentleman Josh Hill. In charge, your referee, Kerry Hatley.
Gentlemen, this one's work for you. Ready? You ready? Let's go to war.
Bell, round 1. Hill has had 3 fights in the Bellator MMA cage. They've all gone the distance. He said he wants the finish. He really wants to finish this time around. In fact, he said, quote, I would bet on that, close quote. Scoggins might have something to say about that as he tests the waters early with that high kick blocked by Hill.
Look, we talked about Scoggins missing weight stuff, but that's over with because now they're fighting, and Scoggins has got a lot of style to him. He fights in that karate stance. He is good in the stand-up. Josh Hill has got to find a way to get inside, get his hands on and around Scoggins to be successful in this fight.
Scoggins, nicknamed the Psycho, got it when he was training. His training partner said he looked psycho because he did not blink when he sparred. Meanwhile, Hill tells us he has a leather belt in badassery. He's never done gi training, and for Josh Hill, we're seeing it early here, opening minute. Wants to open up more, but now in the clinch with Scoggins.
And that was Scoggins initiating that clinch, so Scoggins has the belief that he can get into a clinch, get into a wrestling situation, and take Josh Hill to the ground. Not sure I agree with him on that.
Hill, lifelong hockey player like the rest of his family. Gee, a Canadian who played hockey. Imagine that. Didn't begin training MMA until the age of 21, but quickly emerged as one of the top fighters in the True North Strong and Free, and now really trying to make a move here in Bellator MMA against Rafion Stotts. Had an opportunity to do so, unable to do so.
Well, when you're talking about his loss to Rafion Stotts, that's his only loss in the Bellator occasion. You're talking about a guy who is one of the best bantamweights in the world now. Rafion Stotts is just an amazing fighter. Added to the win now against Magomed Magomedov. So that is nothing to sneeze about. And when you take a look at Josh Hill, yeah, he lost a decision to him. Josh Hill can fight with anybody.
And Stotts, part of the Grade 8 in the Bantamweight Grand Prix. Of course, speaking of the Bantamweight division, center stage, main event, Sergio Pettis defending the crown against a man who never lost it inside the Bellator MMA cage, Horiguchi.
Josh Hill doing a very good job of understanding the range of Scoggins, being outside of that range and then trying to close the distance to land his shots on his counters. And he's trying to eat up that leg, which is telling you he wants to slow Scoggins moving down.
Upstairs as Scoggins went downstairs with the kicks. Hill owns his own gym, Vision Quest MMA, so definitely has the entrepreneurial spirit. A father of one daughter, Marley, 3-year-old, and stepson's name is Carter. He's 11. Scoggins also a family man. Has 3 sons as they begin to try to test the waters even more here. Minute and a half left in the opening round.
Josh Hill landed a clean right hand on Scoggins. Scoggins just ate it like it was nothing.
Hill from a momentarily southpaw back to orthodox. Body kick by Scoggins from southpaw. And Hill securing the takedown with less than a minute to go in the first frame.
This is what will make Josh Hill successful in this fight. It may not be exciting to people, but he is very good in the top position. He controls well. He has good ground and pound. He needs to posture in this situation to land some heavier shots and make Scoggins pay for allowing that takedown.
And Hill definitely adept at closing the distance quickly, as we just saw. 30 seconds left here in the opening round. By the way, mentioned Hill's kids. Need to mention the wife, Jem, as well, who will, I'm sure, take advantage of that 35% extra. And maybe it was because Josh Hill turned 35 last month as he tries to control from top position on the bottom. Scoggins launching some strikes, but we go to round 2.
All right, deep breath. Okay, listen, he's leaving the gap down the middle. So we need to look for long, straight punches. Don't be afraid to pull, throw a pull here, pull there. And if you open up, he opens up, throw that blitz, get in on his face. But both his hands are out here. You just got to get into range to find it. Straight kicks, side kicks, everything straight. Okay?
Round number 2, how do you have it on your unofficial scorecard?
Unofficially, I have Josh Hill winning that round 10-9. Close round, but Josh Hill landed the better, cleaner shots, got the takedown, landed some shots from the ground and pound position.
Karate stylings of Jared Scoggins. Side stance looking for that kick. Hill walking him down. Hill switching to southpaw again, back to orthodox. So we talk about the mental game, and obviously a lot going on mentally. Right hand, and it's over! Just like that, Josh Hill puts Jared Scoggins in airplane mode. Josh Hill promised a finish. He said, bet on it. Well, he delivered on his promise in stunning fashion.
Stunning fashion is an understatement when you think about the timing of that shot. Scoggins coming in and only intensified that shot that landed so clean and put him out. Watch what happens here. Comes in, right hand right on the chin. Scoggins is out as he falls. Josh Hill doesn't even, goes for another shot, realizes he's out, doesn't land something he doesn't have to. That's why he's called the gentleman. Big time win for Josh Hill. Look at this again, boom. Look at that ear, getting all that hydrostatic shock. Take a look at how fast this happened in real time though. Watch the movement forward and boom, it's over.
When it comes to knockouts, Hill now has 5 on it. A memorable display of power as Josh Hill knocks out Jared Scoggins in Scoggins' Bellator MMA debut, and Hill improves to 3-1 in the deep waters that is the Bellator MMA bantamweight division. And they're celebrating with his wife, Jen. Well, Scoggins came in overweight, and he felt all of the weight of Josh Hill's power. It's good to see that he is on a stool as Scoggins gets knocked out for the first time in his career. Let's make it official with Michael C. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, inside the Bellator cage, the end comes suddenly. 56 seconds into round number 2. The winner by knockout, gentleman, Josh Hill.
KO Canada. Let's go to John McCarthy.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with your winner, Josh Hill. Josh, that was a dramatic and dynamic finish to a contest. In the first round, you started at the end of the round, seemed to get your timing down with him, and where he was trying to come in, you were starting to time that. You got the takedown. When you went back into the second round, were you looking for that big finish? You talked about, you told us, I'm going to finish this fight.
Yeah, this one was about timing. We knew that first round it might be hard to get that timing down because he's very jumpy in and out.
but my coach said we're going to get it. It's going to get it. I landed in the first, I'm not on the button, but that one was right on the button.
You are number 7 on the list. That should move you up, but you're not in the Bantamweight Grand Prix. Do you believe you belong there?
Hell yeah, I believe I belong there. This division is stacked, though. It is stacked, so I understand it. I am the next spot, I think. I'm number 7, you know what I mean? So, hey, I want in. If any injuries or pullouts, I'm your man.
I can tell you right now, President Scott Coker just said that just earned him. He is the guy. If anyone falls out, Josh Hill is the guy that moves in there. You happy about that?
Oh, hell yeah. I should be in there regardless, but hey, I'm your number 1 man.
Well, congratulations on an awesome win. You made him pay for not making weight. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the gentleman, Josh Hill.
When he was asked what fans can expect to see tonight, Josh Hill said, and I quote, "A cerebral powerhouse looking to put a hurt on his opponent." Well, for Josh Hill, it was a hurting he put on Jared Scoggins' lights-out performance as he lit him up like a Christmas tree. Let's go to Amanda Guerra.
We're all smiles from Josh Hill. There we have Josh Thompson here on set, and he and I were just talking about that, exactly what Big John was talking about with him when it comes to the Grand Prix, what this does for Josh Hill's career.
Yeah, that put him right into that alternate spot. There may be injuries, there may not be, but there may be, you know, with COVID around, you never know about that. You never know about fighters not making weight. So there's a lot of opportunity for him to get in that. I feel like he just solidified that with that dominant performance. Nicely done. That wasn't very gentlemanly, by the way.
No. His nickname's the Gentleman, but not very gentlemanly. Maybe outside the cage there. We still have our co-main and main events to come, but of course the huge announcement here tonight. Yes, the Bellator Bantamweight World Grand Prix being announced here tonight. And one of the guys we can now officially say will be in that mix. You see him there on the page, the 3rd-ranked Bantamweight fighter coming off a massive win in front of a very hostile Ireland crowd there. Patchy Mixie joins us here on set. How excited are you for this Grand Prix?
I'm excited, you know, $1 million and a chance at the belt, that's everything. So building off that momentum in Ireland, you know, I want to come and take the gold, but, you know, I want the money too.
So you're coming off your fight with James Gallagher in Dublin. You know, it's a hostile crowd, but it was a fun performance. What did you learn from that type of atmosphere and dealing with someone like a James Gallagher?
I belong with these guys. You know, he's a big star, so I didn't want to let the hype fool me. And dealing with the crowd is everything. I've had 2 years off without fighting in front of crowds now. So my last one was in Japan, Rising. So now coming back, I'm just happy to get back in front of the crowd, doing what I love.
James had made some comments about he was chasing after submissions on you. You were going to chase after the submissions on him. What surprised you about James Gallagher?
I thought he was all talk, but, you know, he walks behind his talk. So, you know, it wasn't just the crowd. He's got game, too. I'm glad he's in the tournament, you know. Maybe we'll meet first round, second round, third round. Who knows? Maybe I'm back in Ireland.
If you look at that listing there, who on that would you like to fight in that first round?
Anybody, you know. Of course, I want the belt, so whoever's in this main event, you know, I'm chasing them. So either one of those names.
Let's talk a little bit about the main event we got coming up tonight, because those guys will be in the Grand Prix. But when it comes to this main event, Pettis going up against Horiguchi, what are your thoughts on this match?
I think Horiguchi is the most experienced fighter he's been able to fight against, obviously defend against, and I think you know, Pettis has great skill, but I think Horiguchi's going to come and reclaim his gold here.
All right, well, we can't wait to watch you in the Grand Prix. Thank you so much for joining us here. Well, still to come, the main event, Sergio Pettis, the current bantamweight champ, but telling us in order to feel like he really earned the belt, he has to go through the guy who gave it up because of an injury, Kyoji Horiguchi. Horiguchi, meanwhile, the praise from fighters across the world, it is unbelievable. He is considered the most underrated fighter in this sport right now. Now, he will tell you, he told us, he's just a regular guy, but we know that is far from the truth.
With a 29-3 record over the last 11 years, Kyoji Horiguchi has proven over and over just how special a talent he is. But the former Bellator and Shooto bantamweight champion and current Rizin title holder at 135 pounds downplays his accomplishments and instead wants to be an example for the next wave of Japanese fighters.
日本人にとったら堀口は別格だからっていう感じなんですよ。そういうことじゃないです。あいつは特別だから、そういうことじゃなくて、自分だって一人間で 膝ぶっ壊して腰ぶっ壊してでやってるわけじゃないですか。こんなに壊れてるんで、だからまあ本当にそういう意味で日本の子供たちに自分は夢を持たしたいなと思って、こういう戦ってる姿を見せたりとか頑張ってる姿を見せてますね。
After suffering an ACL injury 2 years ago, Horiguchi has had a long and difficult journey back. But he was motivated by the burning desire to recapture what was once his. And coming over to fight in the USA and sign with Bellator MMA was not a difficult decision.
そうですね、自分の膝の怪我で、ライジンのベルトとベラトールのベルトを両方返してしまって、ライジンのベルトを取り返したんで、もともと自分のベルトだったんで、ベラトールのベルトも取り返したいなと思って、そちらに移ったっていう感じですかね。
Although he feels that belt is rightfully his, Horiguchi does have respect for the man currently wearing the gold, Sergio Pettis.
やっぱり強い選手ですよね。強い選手だなっていうのは思ってるし、やっぱりどこの団体に行っても上位にはいますよね。やっぱ冷静ですよね。冷静に自分のやることをできるっていう、そこかなって思いますね。
Throughout his career and all of his success, Horiguchi has maintained that same humble and self-deprecating nature, a trait he feels serves him well.
マインドは多分どうなんすかね。自分がアホなのかもしれないですけど、やっぱこんくらいアホじゃないと、なんだろうな、戦ってる時とかなんだろうな、長く続かないですよね、多分選手生命が。
I knew we were going to come on camera and Josh would be smiling and laughing because Kyoji Horiguchi, he just has that charisma, that energy in his laugh. It's infectious.
It's very infectious. And it's just one of those things. We were interviewing him this week, and his energy was so intense, but it was just fun to be around. His laugh, his smiles, his jokes, his banter back and forth with us. And we had Kayla Harrison on my podcast with Big John McCarthy and all of us this week, and she just said when he walks into the room at American Top Team, he just lights up the room and everyone just falls in love with him. It's just his laugh and everything about him.
And he can smack talk. I can't say the other word right now, but you guys know what I'm talking about there. I mean, but how does that translate to in the cage? I mean, he talked about his mindset there and how well that translates, like I said, into the cage.
What it is relaxation. So when it comes down to when you get in there's nothing that you haven't seen. He trains with some of the best fighters in the world. That gym itself, it's got world champions on world champions in it. And so when he goes in there, he knows he's prepared. No matter who steps in that cage, he's prepared to fight the best person that he can be. And that's all he continues to do. He just continues to get better every single time. And we're going to see, I think, a better Horiguchi than we've seen in the last 6 months.
Which is hard to believe that we could possibly see that. All right, we are almost to our main event, but we are just minutes away now from our co-main event. We have Emmanuel Sanchez going up against Jeremy Kennedy. Let's start with Emmanuel Sanchez here because he had never before had back-to-back losses. He lost to Pitbull, then he went up against Mads Burnell. He said, look, I was emotional. I wanted to make a statement. He wasn't able to do that. Jeremy Kennedy, very similar to Mads. They've trained with each other. How does Sanchez overcome that?
So this is what happened in the fight with Mads, is that Sanchez has got 8 submissions.
You can read that?
Yeah, I can read that. I can see it. So he's got 8 submissions. So he got comfortable off of his back, and he was chasing submissions the whole time, and none of them were getting close, and that's how the fight got away from him. He cannot afford to do that with Jeremy Kennedy right now, because if he does that, he can end up in trouble. Now, to go back to his submissions, he can hit your submissions from anywhere. A standing arm triangle, he's been able to drug his opponent to the ground, finish it from there. He's someone that also is very aggressive off of his back from the guard position. The triangles, the arm bars, the kimuras, all of those things, he's very dynamic from his back. He can chase them from anywhere. The thing that what people don't understand about him is that his pressure is intense. He will walk you down, throw big strikes, and make you make a mistake. That's Emmanuel Sanchez. He's got to make sure he keeps his back off the ground today and keeps his fight out in the center.
Talk to us about Jeremy Kennedy, because I thought this was really interesting when we met with him this week. He said, look, I actually need to have less fun in the cage. It's not often you hear about that, but he says, I'm not fighting to my full potential. So how does he do that tonight?
Yeah, every fighter, I think, believes that. They leave the cage and they think to themselves, I could have done better. But that's because they're normally winning. So for him, he just needs to make sure that he keeps a tempo and a pace, try to put Emmanuel Sanchez on his back foot. If Emmanuel Sanchez is pushing him around, he may have a long night. He's got to start pushing Emmanuel Sanchez back, throwing heavy kicks, switching his stance, and timing on the takedown. Emmanuel Sanchez throws his punches and kicks in combinations, so his timing on the takedown will be impeccable. It needs to be impeccable for him to get this fight to the ground. Now, as he gets the fight to the ground, he's got heavy hips, he's got good pressure, and he's got vicious ground and pound. The thing with him is that he needs to make sure that he's being active so the ref doesn't start to stand him up. He's a very, very good fighter. He needs to make sure that he pushes Emmanuel Sanchez around that cage.
You told us earlier tonight with the two different styles here, this has the chance to be explosive, so it is time for our co-main event. Moro, we'll send it back down to you.
All right, Amanda, thank you very much. Number 4 ranked Emmanuel Sanchez, former 2-time title challenger, takes on Jeremy Kennedy, ranked number 9 in the Bellator MMA featherweight rankings.
Now ready to make his way to the cage, Jeremy JBC Kennedy.
Jeremy Kennedy, cognizant of the fact that fellow Canadian Josh Hill just recorded a resounding knockout. Kennedy making his way to the Bellator MMA cage for this huge matchup against a guy in Sanchez who has been there, done that, and Kennedy, well, coming off the loss to Adam Boric, but took that fight on a short notice and faced one of the best that Bellator has to offer.
Yeah, absolutely, but did not fight a smart fight. He decided, I'm going to be a stand-up fighter against a guy who is a stand-up fighter. When Jeremy Kennedy had the better wrestling, had the ability to possibly take it to the ground, he said, I made a big mistake. I didn't listen to my coaches. That has changed. We're going to see tonight.
Kennedy recently purchasing a home in Las Vegas where he trains the native of Surrey, British Columbia, looking for the huge triumph here tonight. The featherweight division ruled by A.J. McKee.
And now making his way, Emmanuel Sanchez.
Sanchez, a fan favorite, looking to bounce back from consecutive defeats for the first time in his career. But when you look at the losses, well, he was defeated in a rematch against then featherweight champion Patricio Pitbull, and then went the distance with the rapidly rising Matt Burnell.
And in a fight that you look and you say, he changed what he normally does. Look, Emmanuel Sanchez has got cardio for days. He weaponizes his cardio system by pushing the pace of the fight. And in that fight, he was looking for the big knockout when normally he's a volume guy. He needs to get back to being the volume guy who just keeps putting a pressure on his opponent that eventually breaks him.
Burnell now ranked number 2. And again, Sanchez, who has had 2 opportunities to become a champion, taking those experiences, realizing that, yeah, like you say, John, he has to get back to what made him a title contender in the first place as we go to the tail of the tape for our co-feature.
20-6 versus 16-3. 2 outstanding featherweights looking to put themselves into a position to possibly get that title match. We'll see what happens.
Here, once again, Michael C. Williams.
Bellator MMA now presents the co-main event of the evening. 3 5-minute rounds in the featherweight division. Live on Showtime, we introduce first the blue corner. At 5'11", weighing in 145 3/4 pounds, his professional record, 16 wins, 3 losses. From Surrey, British Columbia, Canada, he fights out of Las Vegas, Nevada, Jeremy JBC Kennedy. And across the ring, the cage rather, his adversary, out of the red corner. At 5'9", weighing in 145 1/4 pounds, the 2-time Bellator title challenger, brings 20 professional victories, 6 defeats, fighting out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Emmanuel Sanchez. And the referee in charge, Dan Mergliata.
Kennedy with 3 wins in the first round. Sanchez with 6 wins in the opening round, and first round underway. Sanchez rushes to the center of the cage, touches gloves with Kennedy. What do you look for early in this fight, John?
What I look for from Sanchez is a constant pressure with a lot of volume attack on Jeremy Kennedy. Don't try to hit him hard, just try to keep touching him. And Jeremy Kennedy's got to figure out that footwork pattern that Emmanuel Sanchez uses. He changes back and forth. He needs to get into that position right there to get his takedowns. And he needs to be effective with the takedown and keeping him on the ground.
Sanchez competing in his 18th Bellator featherweight bout. That's tied with current champion A.J. McKee for the second most appearances in divisional history, behind Patricio Pitbull, 23. A minute gone here as Sanchez looking for the Kimura.
Well, it was a nice job of Sanchez stepping over the leg, almost getting that Kimura to actually have an effect. Jeremy kept his composure, kept his hands locked, and was right back to it. Now he doesn't have that Kimura grip, and he's in a position with a high crotch. He can get Sanchez onto the ground. Look at where he's looking. His posture, very smart, tactical, and he's not burning a lot of energy from the position.
Catch wrestler texted me, said, hey, double wrist lock.
Either way you want to call it.
It's painful.
Right. They're both right.
Yes. Sanchez very aware of his surroundings, even taking a look at his corner as Kennedy lifts him up and takes him down.
Nice elevation by Jeremy Kennedy.
High amplitude.
And he needs to just now force his back to the canvas like he's doing. Sanchez is very active from this position, and Kennedy needs to move this position up to stop those blows. You see Sanchez looking for an omoplata there. He can use that not only as a submission, but just to sweep and get himself to the top position.
Kennedy began training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when he was 13. Is a brown belt under Viviano Fernandez. He started competing in pancration, which of course allows a bit of striking along with takedowns when he was 16. So he's a lifer when it comes to MMA, representing the next generation of mixed martial artists.
No doubt about it. He's in the half guard position here, but this is where Sanchez needs to make sure that he does not settle for position. He's got to continuously work to get back to his feet or get into that position where we talk about the 3 S's. He needs to either look for the sweep, the submission, or get back to the stand-up.
Nice escape. You talked about the 3 S's when it came to Japanese MMA at the start of the show with Kyoji Horiguchi coming up. You mentioned Sato, Sakurai, and Sakuraba.
Very true.
Really looking forward to the main event and what is at stake there, but so much at stake here in this meeting between top 10 ranked featherweights. And again with Sanchez, who is experiencing the first 2-fight losing streak of his long career.
Jeremy Kennedy doing a great job of being Velcro. He has stuck to Emmanuel Sanchez. This is exactly what his coach, Eric Nixon, wants out of him, because this is where he can win the fight. If he gets into the open area of the cage with Sanchez on the feet, that is not his area to win this fight.
And Sanchez looking for that rolling knee bar attempt, but just now on his back, hammer fist from the bottom.
In a position to possibly look towards, the triangle choke right here, and that is Sanchez's favorite submission. So what he says he gets more often than anything in training.
And he has 3 triangle choke submissions to go along with 3 rear naked chokes, an arm triangle and an arm bar, but Kennedy defending here in the first round.
Nice posture by Kennedy. That's going to defend against That position right now, there is no triangle. We're talking about a high guard with a good body position by Jeremy Kennedy, just defending.
Kennedy has never been submitted.
But this is what, if you're Emmanuel Sanchez, you've now put Kennedy, who's in the top position, on the defense. He cannot do anything offensive right now because he's got to be worried about that triangle getting locked up.
And time will run out on Sanchez's attempt as Kennedy delivers some punches within the guard to close out the round.
Beautiful. A little blood over here. How you feel? Good. Couple deep breaths. All right, listen. So now your level change has got some validity to it. He's got to worry about the takedown now. I want layers. I want levels. I want to see him up and down, right? Then our striking has its validity. Then we give our fit in. Draw it out. He had no answer in the ground game. Nothing. You understand? Steady pace. Stay on top. Cook this motherfucker. What do you got, Eddie?
Got it, Bubba? You're doing good. But let's stick. You're right. Stick, circle. Hit hard, circle. Hit hard. Because all he wants to do is... Yeah. And remember the Mana toggle kick? And move, okay?
A big night for Rufus Sport out of Milwaukee. Duke Rufus training both Emmanuel Sanchez, and he will be in the corner of the Bellator Bantamweight champion Sergio Pettis in tonight's main event. Kennedy, meanwhile, receiving expert instructions from his trainer, Eric Nixick, out of Extreme Couture in Las Vegas. And, John, how do you have it on your unofficial scorecard?
Unofficially, I'm going to give that round to Sanchez based upon, yes, Jeremy Kennedy took him down, and he controlled a lot of where the fight was at. He wasn't able to land anything, and there was no submission attempts out of him. And I saw that out of Sanchez, so right now, it's close, and it could go either way, but I'm going to go with Sanchez.
Sanchez looking to run the pipe on the single, turning it into a double, now has the waist lock from the back in the first 30 seconds of the second round.
But notice the difference, at least when Sanchez has this body lock, he's landing knee strikes. He's doing something more than just controlling the position.
Sanchez, proud Mexican-American. His parents came to the United States in search of the American dream. And wow!
Nice job by Jeremy Kennedy. He's the one that did that maneuver. Beautiful foot sweep.
And Kennedy now in top position, half butterfly hook employed by Sanchez, and he is delivering hammer fist from the bottom, trying to keep Kennedy distracted.
Looking towards that omoplata, you see that Jeremy Kennedy is defending it. He's holding that arm against, using the weight of Sanchez to make it so he cannot slide it around.
Slashing elbow and hammer fist, and another elbow by Sanchez as blood begins to decorate the canvas and the fighters' bodies.
And this right now is the difference. You're seeing Sanchez is at least trying to strike. I've seen one strike land for Jeremy Kennedy since he's got that takedown. Just need to see a little bit more out of him.
2 minutes elapsed here in round two. Waistlock by Kennedy. Sanchez back on his feet along the fence, looking to break the grip. And Kennedy wanting to launch another amplitude takedown, and Sanchez against the fence.
Sanchez working hard, and Kennedy doing a great job with his body position, using that head as a third arm to grind him towards the canvas. This is exactly where Jeremy Kennedy needs to be. Now we just need to see him open up a little bit and start to try to either look for the submission or do some damage with strikes.
Kennedy facing one of the most battle-tested 145-pound fighters on the planet.
Come on, man. Go. Yes. Yes, go.
Kennedy spinning north-south. And Sanchez active on the bottom.
Sanchez being very active, but he has nothing there. And what Jeremy Kennedy is allowing him to do is just slide underneath him. Yes, he's moving, but there's no active submission there. It's just a change of position.
Yeah, Kennedy in side control now, looking to take the back of Sanchez. And Jeremy Kennedy putting his hooks in, John, and looking for the submission.
Very nice job by Jeremy Kennedy. Get the back. He's controlling right there. He's only got one hook now. Sanchez was able to free his right leg. But Jeremy Kennedy in what we call a seatbelt position there.
And Kennedy with 2 submission wins, including a rear naked choke. The last submission victory was via RNC against Andre Da Silva back in August 2014.
Jeremy Kennedy trying to land a couple strikes to open up Sanchez. Sanchez throwing those strikes back, but they mean nothing. There's no power to him. You can't do any damage with him.
Final minute of the second. Sanchez desperate to try to get the fight back to its feet.
Great grappling transitions by both fighters. Sanchez always moving, always creating an opening. Jeremy Kennedy trying to flow with it.
Yeah, and he puts his pressure, puts his weight on Sanchez. Wide base. Final half minute of the second. Both fighters back on their feet here with Sanchez stapled to the fence.
Short time, kid, short time. All day.
Kennedy, 6 of 7 in the takedown department. Sanchez 0 for 2 as we near the end of round number 2. Grueling battle at 145.
Couple deep breaths for me. 2 more. Last one. Hey, beautiful round. We know what he's got to do. He's got to come out swinging and banging. Let's drop levels, feint hard, draw out whatever the fuck he's got coming for us, put him on his ass, and cook this clock. Listen to me. This is for Kyle. We don't get this shit for Kyle. You understand me? Right now. Let's go.
Still to come in the main event, Sergio Pettis seeking his 5th straight victory, undefeated in Bellator MMA, maiden voyage as a 135-pound champion, but he has admitted he's not the real champ until he defeats Kyoji Horiguchi, the 2-time rising ruler at 135, former Bellator champion, dethroned Darion Caldwell, was forced to vacate the title, chose to do so after suffering a knee injury that required surgery November 2019, and he is back to claim what he never lost. That's in the main event right now. Another crucial matchup at 145, the 3rd and final round. Eric Nixick doing his best to motivate Jeremy Kennedy, and Kennedy gets the takedown to begin the 3rd round.
Jeremy Kennedy responding. I look at this fight, I haven't either. It's going to be one of 2 things. Jeremy Kennedy is up 2 rounds to nothing, or it's even at best for Sanchez. Take a look at him taking the back right now. Sanchez was able to work his way through this against the cage. Can he do the same thing? Body lock. Got a body triangle now by Jeremy Kennedy. Now it's all about the hands. The hand fighting begins. Emmanuel Sanchez is very adept at being able to defend against the choke.
Sanchez has been submitted just once, a technical sub-guillotine choke against the aforementioned Patricio Pitbull. That was a Bellator 255 in April of this year. A minute gone in the final round.
Eric Nixick told Jeremy Kennedy that Emmanuel Sanchez was going to come after him. That's exactly what happened. Drop or change of levels by Jeremy Kennedy. Takes the fight to the ground, gets the back. This is exactly what he wanted.
Sanchez said that tonight was about winning at all costs, and 3.5 minutes now remain in this fight. Body triangle employed by Kennedy.
Jeremy Kennedy's got his right arm. It's trapped inside of the arm of Emmanuel Sanchez. Emmanuel knows it. That's why he's laying to that side. Even though if he wants to get out of the body triangle, he needs to actually go to the other side and put that foot to the ground.
Sanchez. Under 3 minutes left in the round, and Sanchez needs to try to find a way to escape the body triangle. Needs to get this fight back on its feet. No sense of urgency. And time continues to tick away. Kennedy more than happy to continue to ride it out from back. Looking again for the rear naked choke.
Looking for that. It's not in position right now.
Base crack.
It is not an easy thing to get against someone that knows what they're doing. But Jeremy Kennedy should now switch to that mount position. Look for the arm triangle or start to do damage with heavy strikes. Manuel Sanchez moving himself up. The more that he can actually climb that cage, the better position he's going to be in getting away from Jeremy Kennedy or changing the position.
Sanchez right in front of his trainer, Duke Rufus, and now Sanchez employing a hold on the neck of Kennedy.
And he's got the neck and he's got the arms in place, but he's got nothing with the legs that's going to create the pressure that he needs to make that choke work.
8 submission wins for Sanchez. None of them via guillotine choke, looking to pull out the victory.
Jeremy Kennedy is not in danger right now with this choke. He's just relaxing in the position.
And Sanchez has to be careful not to burn out his arms.
Well, you burn out your arms. There's only a minute left in the fight. You got to do something, but you've got to do something to create more pressure on this choke. And he does not have that based upon his leg position.
A minute left.
Good in pro wrestling, he would go unconscious, but this is the real fight, Marlon. He knows what he's doing. That is not a dangerous position right now for Jeremy Kennedy.
That's it, everything you got. You got 30 seconds, baby. 30 seconds.
Now he starts to get that leg over the top. Possibly get that knee up inside. There's Jeremy
Kennedy pops his head out, and now with 20 seconds left, it is Kennedy in top position, looking for the biggest victory of his career, looking to knock off the number 4 ranked Emmanuel Sanchez, who has twice vied for the Bellator featherweight title. Kennedy, Sanchez, go the distance.
Look, a lot of people are not going to be so impressed with what Jeremy Kennedy just did, but that was a fantastic performance by Jeremy Kennedy. He fought the exact fight he needed to get a win against Emmanuel Sanchez. You have to appreciate everything that he did in that fight.
While we await the official decision, I want to remind you that Showtime keeps you on the edge of your seat, whether it's the best in combat sports or award-winning scripted entertainment.
Can you keep a secret? You bet. It's been almost 10 years.
Have you learned nothing?
I might still be a monster. But I'm an evolving monster.
The plane crashed. A bunch of my friends died. The rest of us starved and scavenged till they finally found us.
Hello? I tell you something I did.
Ray?
Something bad. Shit runs downhill. Father to son, father to daughter.
He's gonna kill Nikki.
It has been earned.
Bellator 272 wrapping up the year for Bellator MMA here at the Mohegan Sun Arena in Uncasville, Connecticut. We just witnessed Emmanuel Sanchez and Jeremy Kennedy go the distance in this featherweight fight. Michael C. Williams has the name of the winner.
Ladies and gentlemen, having gone the distance, we'll go now to your three judges at cage side. Doug Crosby, Ron McCarthy, David Hagan, all have it exactly the same at 30-27 for the winner by unanimous decision, Jeremy J.B.C. Kennedy.
The biggest win of his career for Jeremy Kennedy. Let's go to Big John McCarthy.
I am here with Jeremy Kennedy after a very grinding and grueling but dominant performance. You, in your prior fights, started to become someone that was a stand-up guy with all that grappling skill, and I know you had some coaches that were not too happy with you. Talk to me about what your game plan was coming in here.
First and foremost, I've been looking forward to this. Having an interview with Big John McCarthy. My third fight in Bellator finally happened. I can't seem to kind of find it. Last fight, my coaches got mad at me. I got a world-class, an atomic bomb is what my coach says. It's a 100-mile fastball. I got to use it. And last fight I didn't. I wanted to try to mix it up, change up my style, and I was competitive, but I had to, get back to my roots. I would have liked to mix it up a bit more. But Sanchez, man, he's in your face the whole time. It's hard to dictate that, that good calculated range. He kind of just came right at me, and I had to go right to my roots. And I put a lot of pressure on myself for this one. I had a very close friend pass. He was in my corner for the last few fights. Kyle Boom Reyes. I didn't want to go home with a loss. I didn't want to take any any chance. Zero chances whatsoever. I wanted to win every single exchange. 30-27. I wanted to win every second of every moment of this fight. And I didn't care what that looked like. I had to get the W, and I put all that on my shoulders. Next time around, I'm going to get back to having fun, but find that happy medium. Like me and my coach says, it's a teeter-totter, Got to find the happy medium, and I'm just a little bit swaying right now. And yeah, this one was for Boom. Don't care. I need to get my hand raised at all costs. I wasn't coming here without a win.
I want to tell you, you just beat the guy who is ranked #4. You should be moving up in the Bellator rankings. I want to congratulate you on an outstanding, tough, grinding victory.
And yeah, I just want to get some respect on my name, man. I wanted to get high on those rankings. The bookies had me at an underdog, ranked number 9th. Like, come on. I've been around, man, fought in all the best world, promotions. Let's go. Come on. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Jeremy Kennedy. Jeremy Kennedy, you owe your coaches dinner.
And Jeremy Kennedy definitely making his case to move up the rankings as the number 9 ranked fighter just knocked off the number 4 ranked Emmanuel Sanchez. Sanchez now in the midst of his first ever 3-fight losing streak, but a huge win for Jeremy Kennedy, and may Kyle Reyes rest in peace. Let's go back to Amanda Guerra.
Maura, we are now just minutes away from our main event, but we want to remind you Sunday Showtime pay-per-view welcomes back the Tank Gervonta Davis, who puts his WBA lightweight belt on the line against hard-hitting Isak Pitbull Cruz. That is Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, only on Showtime pay-per-view. But of course, one of the biggest announcements here tonight at Bellator Bantamweight World Grand Prix, and one of the guys we will have the pleasure of watching, Rafion Stotts, ranked 2nd right now, and he is joining us at the fight desk here. Rafion, I got to ask you, how excited? He's really looking around. We are talking about you, sir. How excited are you for this Grand Prix?
Like, if y'all could see the blood inside of me, it's like bubbling right now. You know what I mean? I'm so excited to be here. Like, I see myself on the camera. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm bugging out right now. You know what I mean?
I can tell, buddy. What's
hey, they got they had the taco meat. You know what I'm saying? I got a little taco meat. You know what I'm saying? For anybody that want to see it, little taco meat. You know what I mean?
How did the call go when Scott Coker gave you the call? He said you were the most electric when they answered the phone saying, yeah, I would go. So tell me, how did it sound?
Man, I feel like I've been putting this out into the universe like since I've got to Bellator. That was one of the reasons I signed for Bellator, was this bantamweight tournament. And when he called me, I was at like zoo lights with my kids and my wife and Rakeem Cleveland actually. Yeah, he called me and I was like, I thought it was a prank call, to be honest. I've never talked to Scott Coker before then. I was like, hello? And he was like, yeah, this is Scott Coker. I'm like, all right, stop bullshitting. Who is this? My bad, who is this for real? And then he was like, yeah, it's Scott Coker. And I was like, oh, that's dope. And then he told me about the tournament. I was like, oh, yes, please. Like, can I sign today? You know what I mean? Like, when can I do this?
So you're coming off a huge win over Magomedov, and he was highly touted. Everyone was talking about his performances. He's the only guy to have a win over Peter Yan, a legit win over Peter Yan. And then he came in highly touted, and you had a unanimous decision victory over him. Talk to me about that.
You know, I feel like it takes a while for the fans to like figure out like who's good. You know what I mean? It's hard out there. You know, you don't know who is fighting who they fought in the past. But Magomed is a legit top talent, you know, and I felt like that was my opportunity to prove that I'm the best in the world. You know what I mean?
He's known for his wrestling, and you shut down all of his wrestling and lit him up on the feet as well.
Exactly. So I'm better than him everywhere, you know, and people are gonna slowly figure out that I'm better than a lot of these fighters, like everywhere. I don't know where the camera's at, but everywhere the fight wants to go, I am better, and I will prove that. Just watch.
So, okay, I can't let you out of here without talking to you about the main event tonight. Kyoji Horiguchi versus your boy, Sergio Pettis. Give me some feedback on this.
You know what I'm saying? Sergio's gonna go out there and, you know what I'm saying, lay the hammer down and get the job done. You know what I mean? Of course I'm biased, but I feel like this is his toughest opponent, you know what I mean? Pretty much to date. But Sergio is a person who's like become one with himself, become one with, you know, what he is as a mixed martial artist, and he's gonna come out on top. You know, I have no doubt that he will.
All right, well, my last question is, if he wins, who do you want to fight in the tournament? If he loses, who do you want to fight in the tournament?
It's a lot of scrubs out there to fight. But, no, who I want to fight, okay, if Horiguchi wins, I want to fight him off bat. To be honest with y'all, I feel like it's going to be a title fight, and I get paid more for a title fight, so I would like to knock him off. Otherwise, I feel like we got James Gallagher as some low-hanging fruit, you know what I mean? Like, everybody going to probably be trying to fight him. Juan Archuleta been giving me every excuse in the book not to fight me, so I would probably like to fight Juan Archuleta.
I need this energy in my life, and this is what we can expect in 2022 for the Grand Prix. Rafian Saad, thank you so much. I'm going to try to get you a permanent spot up here. We're not fighting, my friend.
Whoa.
You know, I mean, Josh is good.
You're like the taco meat. That's what it is. The taco meat is electrifying.
You need to pump the brakes on this.
Josh is going to get his feelings
out of here.
All right, Rafian, thank you so much. Well, still moments to come. The main event, champ versus champ, Kyoji Horiguchi. He is back to try to win the belt. He decided to vacate back in 2019 because of a knee injury. He calls it a fake belt right now. Well, the guy who currently owns it, Sergio Pettis, who has finally stepped out of the shadow of his brother, Anthony Showtime Pettis, taking a look at the road to the title, how Sergio Pettis got here. It was fairly quick for him, but he tells us he still has more to prove.
We are set for a possible 5 rounds for that, the Bellator Bantamweight Championship. The champion Archuleta in the red gloves, the challenger Pettis in the blue gloves.
I felt like I won the fight before I knew I got the belt. You know, I just felt confident. I did everything it took to beat Juan Archuleta. I just felt like I was in control of the whole situation.
And now the new Bellator Bantamweight World Champion, SP Sergio Pettis.
Professional for 10 years, finally got my chance to get a title, and you know, all the hard work paid off. You know, it was awesome to share that with my coach, my brother, and just my team. They're one of the happiest moments of my MMA career. Definitely a little different now, and I feel like people respect me a little bit more, honestly. And in that sense, yeah, there's a little bit of a difference, but you know, other than that, I just got more money in my bank account, so the investment is back into the sport. I feel like this Sergio is going to be the next wave, you know, for myself, the Sergio 2.0, where I'm putting in the work. Not only that, I'm putting in the mental work. I'm believing in myself, and I'm slowly realizing my potential. You know, when I was younger, I didn't really see that. I was just like, I might be another fighter. But now I understand, you know, my goal and what I want to do and what I'm set out to do. I lived a life of pressure, mixed martial arts. You know, I was Anthony Pettis' younger brother that had big expectations wherever I went. So I feel like there's no pressure, man. You know, at the end of the day, there's a winner, there's a loser, and I've learned to really accept that. I'm afraid of losing, but I know that if I don't try to get that win, I'd be more upset with that. You know, instead of just fighting passive, I'm gonna go out there and try to win it.
It's all over! Sergio Pettis!
Horiguchi is someone I used to watch growing up. You know, before I was even fighting the UFC, I saw Horiguchi competing, and I mean, he's one of the best. I mean, look at his record, 29-3. You know, he's held the Bellator belt, he had the Risen belt. He's fighting for the UFC belt. Once you go to different organizations and you're at the top of the food chain, that shows you how good you are. You know, it's like you're not just good at one spot, you're good everywhere, all around the world. You know, I think he's gonna come in this fight hungry. This guy was the last man to hold his belt, and no one took it from him. You know, he just vacated it, and I feel like if I beat him, I'm the real champion at 135.
So let's talk about the name Pettis, because for so long it was Anthony Pettis. Now it is Sergio Pettis' time. He said, look, I've stepped out of the shadow of my brother. And you've talked about it, the maturity that you were seeing from him right now.
Yeah, when he first came onto the scene, he was mainly just all kickboxing. Sure, he had good takedown defense. He had a little bit of the grappling aspect of it all, but he's matured as a fighter. He knows when he fought Kashaki and he dropped him, he tried to finish him with some strikes. He wasn't able to do it, so what he did was very impressive. Instead of trying to get him out of there with strikes, knowing that it was probably going to take longer, he jumped right to the guillotine, put Kashaki into sleep. I mean, it was very impressive how tight his technique has gotten, as well as how more well-rounded he has become. With Juan Archuleta, Juan was struggling the whole time to close the distance, to get him into a phone booth, and when he did get him down, Pettis hit his hips, and he hopped right back up. Those are the things that you want to see from a young fighter as they're maturing. And every time he got taken down, there was never a second he sat there and said, okay, I'm just going to concede to this position. He worked his way back to his feet, fought for the underhooks, circled his back off, and then he started letting his hands go and putting the combination together. That was a huge win for him against Juan Archuleta to capture the title.
So how does he use that in the fight tonight?
He's got to do the same thing. He's got to put Horiguchi on his back foot. He's got to make sure that he doesn't overextend, because I believe the speed's going to go to Horiguchi. The power will probably go to Horiguchi, but the tightness and the technique will go to Pettis.
All right, so let's talk about Horiguchi there. You said he has the speed, he has the power. How does he walk away taking back his belt?
He's just so impressive. Everyone we've talked to, the speed of which he possesses, the power in which he possesses, but the way he jumps in and jumps out, he's got to be very careful because Pettis is very tight with his technique. So you can see the power, the kicks. He's got power in his hands, but he fights also a very relaxed style. He keeps his hands down. He kind of jumps in and jumps out. But those type of things could potentially get you in trouble with Pettis as well. But in terms of his wrestling, I think that's how he gets it done. The wrestling is going to be the key. He's going to have to jump in with the striking, close the distance, fight him in a phone booth, get him to the ground and control that position, potentially try to get to a submission. I give the advantage to the submissions to Horiguchi, as well as the speed and the power. So that, I think, is going to make a big difference in this fight.
I got to tell you, when it comes to this point, it's a little sad because we don't want it to be done, but we are so excited. It is finally here, the main event. It all comes down to this, the guy who has the belt and the one who wants it back.
And now the new Bellator Bantamweight World Champion XP, Sergio.
He's out. It's all over! Sergio Pettis! Victorious!
The premier Japanese MMA fighter fighting today.
Rising Fighting Federation Bantamweight champ, and Horiguchi definitely has a claim to being the best bantamweight on the planet.
Set now to make his way to the cage, the challenger, Kyoji, the Karate Kid, Horiguchi.
as the Karate Kid, but he's going to take a page out of Cobra Kai. He wants to strike first, strike hard, no mercy. And boy, he doesn't show mercy when he has you in trouble. 14-1 in his last 15 fights, avenged the defeat in his last fight last New Year's Eve against Kaya Sakura to become a two-time Rizin bantamweight champion. That title isn't on the line tonight, but supremacy at 135 is.
Supremacy at 135 is definitely on the line. You're taking a look, not only one of the best 135-pound fighters that walks this planet, but one of the best pound-for-pound fighters that walks the planet. For Kyoji Horiguchi, he needs to set the pace early. He needs to get in front of Sergio Pettis and make Pettis back up. Bring the fight to the ground when you can. Don't force it, but when the opportunity is there, use those great takedowns and that speed and get it to the ground and do your work.
Has spent the last 6 years living in Coconut Creek, Florida. Went from the Crazy Bee Gym, inspired by the legendary, the late power-punching wrestler Kid Yamamoto, and now at ATT has become one of the most formidable fighting forces on planet Earth, and under the tutelage of a man I like to call the Professor Mike Brown.
No doubt about it. Mike Brown is just an unbelievable coach.
And now the defending Bellator bantamweight world champion, Sergio SP Pettis.
Sergio Pettis adding a little spice with the salsa stylings of Mark Antony's latest. And Pettis, well, he's on a 4-fight win streak, undefeated here in Bellator MMA at 3-0, and again, was surgical in his precision in outdueling Juan Archuleta to become the new, well, the 8th man to hold the Bellator bantamweight gold, and it's been well documented throughout the night. Once the bell rings, the belt is on the line. We will determine the rightful owner of that Bellator bantamweight championship in 5 rounds or less.
That is exactly it, but you got to be so impressed with what Sergio Pettis has done since coming to the Bellator cage. He needs to possess the footwork that has made him successful against everyone else with Horiguchi. The angles and footwork are key for his victory tonight. Keep your back off of the cage. If your back is on the cage against Horiguchi, you are not winning this fight. Throughout his career, Sergio Pettis has usually been the smaller fighter, shorter, with less reach, but he uses angles and that creates good distance. He doesn't have to worry about that. Horiguchi, 5'5", with a 65-inch reach. That's a 4-inch reach advantage for Sergio Pettis.
Here's Michael C. Williams.
Bellator MMA live on Showtime from Mohegan Sun Arena. The time has come for tonight's main event. 5 5-minute rounds for the Bellator Bantamweight World Championship. Sanctioned by Mohegan Tribe, Department of Athletic Regulation, Chairman James Gessner, President of Sports and Entertainment, Mr. Tom Cantone, Chief of the Mohegan Tribe, Lynn Malerba, and supervising at cage side, Director Mike Mazzulli. And now first, introducing the blue corner. At 5'5", weighing in 134.5 pounds, the reigning Rizin bantamweight world champion and former Bellator title holder enters with 29 professional victories, only 3 defeats, fighting out of Coconut Creek, Florida. He hails from Takasaki, Grumman, Japan, presenting the challenger, Kyoji, the Karate Kid, Horiguchi. And across the cage, the champion tonight fights out of the red corner. At 5'6", weighing in 134 pounds even, in his first world title defense. He stands with 21 professional victories, 5 losses, from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the defending Bellator bantamweight world champion, Sergio SP Pettis. rings, the referee in charge, Todd Anderson.
Gentlemen, go over the rules in the back. Protect yourself at all times. Obey my commands at all times. If you wish to touch gloves, do so now. Step back.
The Bellator bantamweight belt on the line. Pettis says he will dictate the pace and the range. Horiguchi feels his speed, power, and reflexes are what separate him from Pettis. They touch gloves, scheduled for 5 rounds. Inside leg kick connects for Horiguchi. He will dart in and out. Meanwhile, Pettis, an effective counter striker.
Very effective counter striker, but you're seeing exactly what Josh Thompson was talking about. Look at the open, loose style of Horiguchi and look at the tight, controlled manner that Sergio Pettis fights with. So it's really a matter of do those counters land. But Horiguchi comes in to get his offensive action going. Does Pettis land those counters?
Horiguchi coming off a knockout victory over Kai Asakura last New Year's Eve, where he became a 2-time Rising champion as Pettis landed the right hand, avenging a knockout loss to Asakura. Both of them were standouts at flyweight at 125, but really coming into their own here, now at 135.
You got to look at, Sergio Pettis has a win over the current UFC champion in bantamweights.
And Horiguchi gets the takedown.
That's what's important. It's not that Sergio does not know how to defend on the ground.
And Horiguchi has Pettis back.
But it takes all of his offense in the stand-up away.
Horiguchi has 3 submission wins, including a rear naked choke. And Pettis' lone submission defeat came via rear naked choke.
Pettis trying to fight the hands now, trying to break them apart.
Pettis was training with former K1 lightweight tournament runner-up Ren Hiramoto, who gave Pettis plenty of insight into Horiguchi, only 23 years of age. Duke Rufus, Pettis' coach, calls him one bad mofo.
He's right about
it. Spinning back kick to the midsection, connects for Horiguchi.
What you saw from Horiguchi when he decided to abandon that takedown, he at least made Pettis pay and landed a clean strike.
Pettis will try to restrict the movement of Horiguchi if he can. Horiguchi, and you talk about noting patterns, John. When you study tape, you look for patterns.
Well, that's one of the patterns you'll see right there out of Horiguchi. That big looping overhand right. He'll take a step and he likes to walk away from what is normally his power side. And as his opponent reaches over to go cut him off, he'll come in with that looping right hand. He does it all the time. He's very successful with it.
Yeah, it's proven to be lethal. Under 2 minutes left in the opening round. Horiguchi leaping at Pettis. Pettis trying to work the jab, but Horiguchi is chewing up the real estate.
Well, right now, Pettis is being very controlled.
Another spinning back kick. And the right hand by Horiguchi. So Horiguchi, as expected, bringing the offense to Sergio Pettis, looking for his 30th victory. And we talk about the legends from the land of the rising sun, and you ask many people, including Big John McCarthy, and they will say that Kyoji Horiguchi is the best Japanese mixed martial artist of all time.
You take a look at what he's done in his career. He has been absolutely spectacular. There have been some just unbelievable MMA fighters from Japan.
Oh, beautifully done there by Horiguchi. Captain, he went over with the left and goes to the body. Pettis comes back with a combination. 45 seconds left in the first round. Pettis wants to corral Horiguchi. How can can he do so? How can he mitigate the movement of Horiguchi?
Well, what he's doing right now is right. He's not getting caught up in all the motion. He is being very tactical and very composed and tight, but he needs to stop as far as moving backwards. When you see him moving backwards, he cannot do that and win this fight. He needs to come forward, and he needs to create the angles by stepping where he believes Horiguchi wants to go.
1-2 by Horiguchi.
Just like that.
And the left hook. And there, Pettis with the kick. Horiguchi with a much more dynamic display of offense in the first 5 minutes. Pettis landed just 3 of 28 strikes, according to our stats. While Horiguchi, 20 of 37. That's over 50%, 54% connect rate.
Beautiful round. Same thing. 2-1, pop up.
Keep it simple. 1-0. Ones and twos. Jab cross. Very good.
You got to play with.
Let's try to get one takedown around.
Spinning back kick by Horiguchi lands perfectly right almost to the sternum area of Anthony Pettis, and then he comes right back and does it one more time. This one landing a little bit lower, right to the solar plexus. That is a clean, beautiful strike, and the big right hand coming right now. This is what he loves to do. And when you're looking at what Sergio Pettis is doing, he needs to set up those counters and be successful with those counters when Horiguchi makes those attacks.
Ready? Hey!
Bell, round 2. Horiguchi coming out southpaw to start the second round. Kick lands for Horiguchi, back to orthodox. And the one thing about Pettis, always remains calm, stays true to his game plan, and gets knocked off his feet momentarily by Horiguchi.
Beautiful low kick by Horiguchi. It's not that Pettis has not been in there with guys that would have the same type of movement. It's the speed factor with that movement that creates the problems. Horiguchi is incredibly quick.
And incredibly powerful for this weight class.
That's what's impressive, because you don't get guys that usually have one punch knockout power at that size, and he has it.
More than half of his 29 victories have come thanks to his knockout power. 15 KOs on his illustrious resume. And changes levels and gets the takedown on Pettis.
Does it with just technique, beautiful technique. That's what he went to American Top Team for. That's when he ended up losing to Demetrius Johnson. It was the wrestling factor. He said, I need to change it up, has moved himself to Florida, and now you see the difference.
Submitted by one of the best ever in Demetrius Johnson with 1 second left in the 5th and final round. And here, up kicks.
Nice up kick by Sergio Pettis.
And Pettis looking to get the omoplata on Horiguchi, but Horiguchi, the crafty veteran.
He's got too much position right now, but he needs to be careful of that up kick again.
And he's dropping the ground and pound on Pettis. Lands a right hand before snatching the waist. Knee strikes to the right leg of Pettis by Horiguchi. Constantly looking to improve. And now hooks.
He's got a leg Turk on that one side, and he just wants to open up with that right hand. You're seeing that Sergio Pettis doing what we call a baseball grip on it, just holding on to that. Horiguchi is definitely cut under his right eye, though.
Under the eye, preferable to over the eye. But we will monitor that cut.
Well, that cut could have been from one of those up kicks when we talked about that up kick looking like it landed.
Right hands here.
That's what opened up that cut.
Horiguchi, as Pettis tries to wrist control momentarily. Under 2 minutes left in the second round. Pettis. And again, that baseball grip, as you mentioned, John, and yet needs to try to escape. Bit of a stalemate here, a minute and a half left in the second. And there's a couple of right hands from the back by Horiguchi.
This is why you saw Pettis with that grip. That glove is like a big stopper on the end. It's very difficult to get your hand free, but once Horiguchi does, look at what he's doing.
Coming up on the final 60 seconds of the second round, and total strikes landed. Huge edge in favor of Kyoji Horiguchi as they are back on their feet in the final minute of the second stanza.
Pettis really reacting to those feints. You can see when Horiguchi gives him that big hard feint, Pettis is reacting to it. He's a little tight with everything right now.
And he's trying to loosen up right there, John, as you saw. 20 seconds left in the round. And there's a right hand that lands for Horiguchi. It is his money shot jab. Lands for Pettis. Oh,
nice check.
Half kick by Pettis.
That was checked by Horiguchi. That was a beautiful check.
And the spinning back fist misses for Pettis.
Drink when you're ready. A drink when you're ready.
This is that time right here when Horiguchi got into a position. There's the up kick. I believe that might be what actually cut him under the eye. Not sure if it is, but it seems like that was the only thing that could have done it. And that is a clean cut underneath his eye.
When we're on the back again, thank you for that leg. Anderson. Yeah. All right.
You can talk about all the things as far as the percentages. You see how many times Horiguchi has touched Pettis compared to what Pettis has done to Horiguchi. But who looks worse right now in the fight because of one shot? Horiguchi.
Man, incredible that through 2 rounds, Pettis has landed a total of 9 strikes. And yet the one up kick doing the most damage, as you mentioned, John, as we begin round number 3, and Horiguchi comes out in the southpaw stance, bouncing up and down as he is wont to do, looking to dart in and out, while Pettis, very calm and cool, measured, and despite being a noted counter striker, someone's got to lead the dance. Horiguchi doing that.
Take the rhythm, sir. You take the rhythm. Take the lead.
Take the rhythm, take the lead is the instructions from Duke Rufus.
He's going to have to do something because right now I have him down 2 rounds to none in this fight. He did land that nice up kick, but that's not near enough to take the round. Horiguchi is the one that's been in control of this fight. He's landed a lot of volume. He's landed some heavy shots. Nice, clean left hand right there. Pettis needs to really start to open up.
Horiguchi incredibly accurate, landing at a 59% clip now. And again, attacking the leg and backpedaling. Horiguchi 2 for 3 in the takedown department. Pettis yet to attempt to take down. 90 seconds gone here in the third.
Horiguchi gives so much movement back and forth. You're just not sure where he's going to go.
There's a spinning back kick again. Scores for Horiguchi, and Pettis unable to get on track. And Horiguchi snatching the single. Pettis feeding him with a few right uppercuts.
Horiguchi started that with that jab. It landed cleanly. See him riding him on his hip. Brings it right down. Beautiful technique by Kyoji Horiguchi.
Third takedown of the fight for Horiguchi.
Horiguchi, beautiful body position. Look at how he's bringing his hips in. See that knee up under that arm area into the ribs, crushing the space for Sergio Pettis on that side, and he's got the fence on the other side. A lot of pressure by Horiguchi right now. Pettis tries to get his guard back. Horiguchi stuffs it, stays in that half-guard position.
2 minutes left in the third round. Horiguchi working from top position in the half-guard of Sergio Pettis. Pettis desperate to try to escape from underneath Kyoji Horiguchi.
Once again, you saw Pettis trying to, now he's trying to turn into him. But this gives Horiguchi the ability to start opening up with strikes. This is the right thing for Sergio Pettis to do. Get that underhook, start working himself back to his feet.
Horiguchi attacking Pettis' neck and now goes behind to the back. Has one hook in momentarily. And now Horiguchi working from Pettis' back, coming up on the final minute of the third round.
Horiguchi transitioned so fast. Took the back, riding the position. Not that Pettis is in any problem as far as the submission right at this moment. Horiguchi just locks things in so fast, moves to where he wants, forces his opponent to go to the direction he wants, and then takes it. Nice job by Sergio Pettis to get himself out.
Sergio Pettis needs to show an uptick in his offense here as time is running out in the third round. 33 seconds. Again, Horiguchi going downstairs with the kick. There's a counter right by Pettis. Unofficially, through 3 rounds, Sergio Pettis has yet to land in double digits in any round.
That's amazing.
Good job, gentlemen. Thank you.
Listen to me. Hey, don't worry. Let's stay sabay, okay? All right, listen to me. The jab isn't about hitting him. The jab is about breaking his rhythm. The more you jab, you break his rhythm. The less you strike, you understand? So keep it busy, I don't need pinpoint accuracy, I need volume. The volume opens up everything else, do you understand? So.
Reason these two corners are as good as they are, the words of Duke Rufus and Mike Brown, they know what they're doing, John.
Absolutely. You can take a look. Here comes that spinning kick once again. Look at the accuracy that Horiguchi ends up landing that with. That is the third time he's thrown it. Each time it is landed and landed with some power. Takedown by Horiguchi. He has dominated this fight. Right now, I have Sergio Pettis down by 3 rounds. Only 2 rounds left. That means that he needs to do something special in these next 2 rounds if he wants to walk away with that belt in hand.
Ready? Fight!
Championship rounds are upon us. Round number 4. Duke Rufus wants Pettis to pump the jab. Wants him to break the rhythm of Horiguchi. It's not about accuracy, he says. It's about volume. And Horiguchi again closes the gap quickly, looking for the takedown defended by Pettis. Counter right hand again lands for Pettis. And Horiguchi runs right over Pettis into the guard.
Beautiful knee pick by Horiguchi, just drives through. Pettis trying for the elevator sweep, does not get it. And what Pettis is doing right there, he cannot do what you're seeing. That figure four on the body is only going to hold Horiguchi in the top position. He's got the ability to land the bigger, heavier strikes. Pettis has got to move. He's got to open up that guard, either attack with submissions, look for the sweep, or get back to the standing position.
Horiguchi back on his feet, allows Pettis to get back up to a vertical base. There's the jab that splits the guard of Pettis, lands. Horiguchi misses with the low kick.
And we're seeing Pettis open up a lot more. He's taking more chances, but by taking more chances, he's also giving opportunities and openings for Horiguchi to exploit.
Throwing 8 punches in the first 2 minutes of the fourth round is taking more chances. We've got a fight here that we've seen a lot of the feinting in there. Finally, Pettis opening up on Horiguchi.
Yeah, he hit a beautiful left hand.
Yeah.
Based upon it. Pettis now starting to swing for the fences. He's really trying to load up on his shots. That's not his normal style. His normal style is to just touch you and eventually break you down with his shots. He does have power in his hands. He just needs
lead left hook to the body that lands. The best punch of the fight for Pettis. And we are not seeing the jab that Duke Rufus wanted Pettis to try to use to break Horiguchi's rhythm. And there's a jab from Horiguchi that lands.
He's out.
Are you kidding me?
Sergio Pettis pulling it out like we talked about. He had to do something spectacular.
The smile says it all.
Spinning back fist also says it all.
His brother had the Showtime kick. Sergio Pettis has the spinning back fist that just stopped Koji Horiguchi dead in his tracks.
Koji Horiguchi winning this entire fight. Take a look, misses with the kick, but hits the spinning back fist. He is out, does not follow up. Look at that shot right on the jawline. Horiguchi is out, going down. That's why you fight the fight, and that's why championship fights are 5 rounds. Take a look at how fast this truly happens. Here comes the kick. It misses both.
In highlight reel fashion, Sergio Pettis just solidified his status. He said he could not call himself the real Bellator MMA bantamweight champion until he defeated Horiguchi. He didn't just defeat Horiguchi, he destroyed Horiguchi. A monstrous knockout win for Sergio Pettis, successfully defending the Bellator championship for the first time. Pettis said he's been overlooked all his life, was the underdog coming into this fight. Hate it or love it, the underdog's on top, and Sergio Pettis has the Bellator bantamweight division on lock.
Hey, first time in my corner, I get the most highlight of my life.
And of course, concern for Kyoji Horiguchi, who is being tended to by medical staff after being starched by that spinning back fist. Horiguchi knocked out for the second time in his career, and for Sergio Pettis, just the fourth knockout of his career. None any better. Former champion Juan Archuleta, who Pettis defeated to become champion, patching mix. Stotts all will be a part of the Bellator Bantamweight Grand Prix in 2022. And the crowd showing its appreciation and support and respect for Kyoji Horiguchi. A scary knockout to put a capstone on the final event of the year for Bellator MMA. Let's make it official with Michael C. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, the main event comes to an end. 3 minutes, 24 seconds into round number 4 by knockout. The winner and still Bellator Bantamweight World Champion, Sergio SP Pettis.
Let's go to Big John McCarthy.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with the still bantamweight champion of Bellator MMA, Sergio Pettis. I gotta say, that was explosive, it was dramatic, and do you now feel like the real bantamweight champion?
I don't know if that doesn't signify it anymore, man. I came out here and had to get beat up for 4 rounds pretty much. You know, going into the last couple seconds that when that happened, I was just like, man, I'm losing this fight. I gotta do something spectacular, and it came out at the right time. I just want to give a thank you to all my coaches, Duke Rufus, Scott Cushman, first time cornering me ever in my whole fight career since 14 years old, Mark Swinsky, and of course, Ren Hiramoto. Thank you so much for all the love and support you gave me, brother. I respect you a lot.
They say there's a reason the championship fights have those 5 rounds, and you needed that 4th and possibly 5th round. What were you thinking coming into the 4th round? Your coach had talked to you about, I just need you to throw the jab. I need you to just put it out there to get him off rhythm. Do you think that just the pressure that you brought and those things that you were doing more active was the difference in you getting that opportunity to land that spinning back fist?
I needed to face some adversity, and tonight, Horiguchi gave me all of that, man. I was hard trying to time his rhythm, try to get his movement down, but man, yeah, I just had to open up. My coaches always tell me, if you open up, you're gonna be one of the best in the world, and that's what I'm pushing for, man. I'm only 28 years old, and this fight showed me that I have a lot more to work on, and I'm just back to the drawing boards, man. I'm lucky I'm not cut or hurt, and got me some good calf kicks, but I'm back in the gym next 2 weeks.
I just want to tell you, that was an unbelievable finish. Congratulations on being the bantamweight champion here at Bellator. You're an outstanding representation of this division.
Hey, and I want to give a shout out to my mom. I told you I was going to dedicate this fight to you. Thank you for introducing me to martial arts and making me a great man. I'm nothing without you. I love you, Mom.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the bantamweight champion, Sergio SP Pettis.
You know, Sergio Pettis' dad was taken away from him when he was just 10 years old. His mother really stepped up, introduced Sergio and his brother to Taekwondo martial arts when Pettis was just 5 years old. And Mom, you cannot be much prouder than you are tonight of your 28-year-old son just entering his prime. And here, on the final Bellator MMA event of the year, Sergio Pettis just authored the knockout of the year. No longer a fake champion, Sergio Pettis is the man at bantamweight. Let's go to Amanda Guerra.
Moro, thank you so much. Well, Sergio Pettis said he felt like he was babysitting that belt. By all means, that belt is his now. And Josh, I mean, throughout most of that fight, it looked like Kyoji Horiguchi had the upper hand. And then this crowd, including us, stunned at what we just saw.
Yeah, he was having a problem from the beginning with the speed, like we talked about, the power of the leg kicks that we saw in the highlights of Horiguchi. All of those things were a problem for him. But then what happened was he had to throw it all out the door. He knew he was down 3 rounds to none. He needed to get after it. He did whatever he could to do it. Look, this is not something you normally see. He went from the clinch to throwing a head kick in close range. And as soon as Horiguchi spun out, the spinning back fist came, and it was beautifully timed. Nice done by Pettis. These are things that you have to do to just throw your game plan out the door to keep your title. He did that tonight. I gotta tell you, honestly, I was getting concerned as this fight was going on. He was letting the fight just slip away. Minute by minute, second by second. He made the adjustment, did whatever he could to put this fight in his court, and he did a great job tonight of maintaining his title.
Well, and it just goes to show the maturity level that we've been talking about, that he's showed us over the past year in getting to this point. By the way, if you guys miss any portion of tonight's fight card, we are going to run it back. Showtime has you covered. Check your listings for encore plays of Bellator MMA on Showtime and Showtime Extreme. The fight action has only begun this weekend. Get ready for Sunday's massive pay-per-view event when the tank Gervonta Davis puts his belt and 25-0 record on the line against Isa, the Pitbull Cruz. Stick around because next you'll get a much closer look at Sunday's pay-per-view event. Go inside the ring with All Access Davis versus Cruz. Well, here at Mohegan Sun, Bellator 272 closed out our year in extraordinary fashion. Johnny Ebelin opened the show with a big first-round TKO over Colin Huckbody, who was making his Bellator debut. Ebelin now 10-0. He remains undefeated. And Josh Hill followed his lead with another first-round KO, flattening Jared Scoggins, making him pay for missing weight. But after 2 first-round knockouts, Emmanuel Sanchez and Jeremy Kennedy going the distance, with Jeremy Kennedy coming away with his fist in the air, saying it's time to put some respect on his name. And then, of course, the one that left us all cheering. Billed as champ versus champ tonight. It delivered the main event when it looked like Kyoji Horiguchi would win. In the 4th round, Sergio Pettis with a spinning back fist KO. Pettis retaining the bantamweight belt just ahead of the World Grand Prix. That does it for us at the Fight Desk, and for everyone here at Bellator. We'll see you in 2022.